What up? Nice. What's up, fight fans? And we are back at it with another edition here at Round One Sports TV. I am your host, Edwin, and let me know that you hear me loud and clear. What's up, guys? Salud. Salud, Papi. What's up, guys? Thank you for joining in another live episode here at Round One Sports TV. We have a lot to talk about. We have a big fight coming up, an interesting one. Lomachenko versus George Kambosos, and we're gonna go over that fight. It happens to be on a Sunday, not this Saturday. I thought it was this Saturday. This whole time it was even announced on May 11th, and I'm like watching the tryouts, and I'm seeing in the back it's like May 12th, and I'm like on a Sunday. So I also noticed that they also went back and forth on the weight cut. And the weight cut was about the 10-pound rehydration. As we all know, when you compete for an IBF title, there's that you have to make the 10-pound deadline, So there was some back and forth with Loma's team and George's team, and when the final cut was, they can make the weight. So they had agreed at 9 o'clock. So that's gonna be the final, the last weigh-in for the fight. So first they have to make weight. Once they make weight, they make the 135-pound limit. At 9 o'clock the next day, they will weigh in again, and they can't be over the 10-pound limit for the IBF, or you cannot compete for the title. So, just in case you're thinking, they made weight, everything went well, they're supposed to know this. They have to have it calculated. That's why these guys are professionals. And they've competed, I believe, for the IBF before. Well, Teofimo Lopez had the IBF going into the Lomachenko fight. When Tio and Loma met, Tio had the IBF. So Loma never had it, right? Um, but uh George Camboza had it when he fought Devin Haney. So I think they had to obey by that 10 pounds. And Devin Haney did too. So under those rules, because that's the thing about the pain in the ass about getting all the belts. You might get all the belts, but now you got to obey by all their rules. And depending what city you're fighting and what mandatory you're fighting, who's leading the dance? Is it the WBC's turn? Are you fighting their mandatory? Are their rules in effect? Are you fighting for the IBF? Was he the number one contender? And sometimes these things play factors, and I'm not quite too sure. I've never owned all four belts, so But let's break down the tail of the tape of these two men right here. It's going to be an interesting fight. Look, it's all in the eyes for me. I was watching both men on stage, and I was saying both men look serious, equally focused. You could see that George Camboza made the weight, looks like they have like a 2-week period where they have to make a deadline. He made that, Loma made that, they were going into their press conference and their warm up and stuff. So headed into this fight, miraculously, right? George Camboza's record is 21 fights, 10 big ways by knockout with 2 losses, right? The reason why I'm smiling, we're going to get right to it. His only 2 losses are to one man, Devin Haney, right? Okay. So George, as far as Australian fighters, in the 135, he's the number one top Australian fighter at the 135-pound weight division. Okay. So he comes in at 5'9". He's an orthodox fighter. He has a 68-inch arm reach. Okay. And he currently, right now, coming into this fight, has the IBO championship of the world. They're not considered a major sanctioning body just yet, a player in the game, but maybe one day down the road, there'll be 5 belts, a 5-belt era. Okay. And we'll see who makes records then. I hope I live to see the day. So he's coming in against Loma, right? Let's talk about George Kambosos for a quick second here. George Kambosos is, you know, he's a pretty battle tested fighter, I would have to say, right? You know, he did fight for the IBF, the WBA, the WBC, and the WBO when he went to fight against Devin Haney. So he's fought for them all being unified at one time. They have a video on Loma and George Kambosos now out. You know, if you want, go check it out. And they talk about all their wins and losses, his ups and downs as in a career in boxing, right? And I found it ironic that in that episode, Teofimo Lopez would not admit that he was an undisputed world champion. He wouldn't admit to that. You know, I think that he's coming to terms with it. But George Kambosos in the video said he was undisputed. He had no problem saying it, and neither did Loma in the video. You know, and they announced how many men and women have done that until recent. There's only been 9 men in the history of the 4 belt era to do such a feat, you know. And yeah, Bam Bam, he's late to work. What's going on? What's up, guys? And but I found that ironic, right? So Loma coming into this fight, right? Loma coming into this fight has a record of 17 fights, 11 knockouts, and 3 losses. And they also, Loma is coming into the fight. He's 5'7", a 65-inch arm reach, right? And he's the number 1 Ukrainian fighter at 135 pounds in the world, right? They have a common opponent, which is Devin Haney. Devin Haney beat both these men, right? Okay. And ironically, both these men's last losses were to Devin Haney, right? So I'm like, wow. So they make this video about them, right? And they're going through like their opponents and what it took to get here. As far as Lomachenko goes, right? I've always said this, that he has an extensive amateur boxing background, meaning he won a gold medal not once, but twice in the Olympics. And as we all know, the Olympics is every 4 years. His father didn't think he was ready when he won the first gold medal. He made him wait another 4 years to win another gold medal to say, son, I think you're ready to turn pro. If you ask me, I think they held up Lomachenko's career. Those are 4 extra years he can use now. And what I mean by that is Lomachenko only has 17 fights with 11 knockouts and 3 losses. Say that again, 17 fights. 17 fights. He's 36 years old. You mean to tell me on going into his 18th professional fight, he might be retiring? Say he loses against George Kambosos. Where does he go from here? He might retire. He's going to retire with 18 professional fights. What? 18 professional fights. You're just climbing up the division as like a regular boxer. With 18 professional fight, you probably didn't even compete for your first world title. Yeah. I mean, there's elite and exceptional fighters that have done really well in their career. But for instance, the great Terrence Crawford, it took him 6 years to get his first crack at a world title at 135 pounds. You see? And it was like Loma came into boxing, we blinked, he was gone. His father kept him in the Olympics, and as an amateur, if you ask me, way too long. But now we're here, we have a fight. And where Loma has came from, you know, the kind of dad that he had, you know, pushing him. As a child, He entered the sport of boxing, and his father felt like his footwork wasn't good enough. So he took him out of boxing and he made him do like ballroom dancing, salsa, all kinds of dances for like 4 years, 3, 4 years, something ridiculous. Like when his father made him do something, I think he made him do it too long. Like I believe the lesson could have been taught, the same lesson in a shorter period of time. It was like he didn't have confidence in him. And I think that that's due in part to the situations he sees himself in now. Back when Loma was Matrix Lomachenko, bro, nobody was signing up to fight that man. And they lying if they saying they were. Loma was spinning. Yo, he had a lot of people shook. And he wasn't just dancing around in his speed. He was dropping these dudes. But the problem is that um time wasn't Loma's friend, as we can see. Entering his 18th professional fight, he might just retire if he loses. If he wins, I think he's gonna make another run for it. He's gonna fight until he loses or until he achieves his dream, whichever comes first. But how much more does he have in him? He's 36 now. If he wins now, when's the next time he fights? 37. He might try to get squeezed in two. We're talking 38. What do you think he's going to be like? So, yeah, look, as that goes, I think they did him a disservice, but I he's a remarkable fighter and he was good for the sport. Even though look back now as I talk, I used to like talk about a lot of favoritism they gave Loma, but I can see why they rushed him along because the powers that be at Top Rank knew they weren't going to have him for a long time. And I see now why a man so skilled. See, I think, he was going to get what he was going to get with just his skill alone. Loma was going to get them belts regardless. They might have pushed him along because the people that knew he wasn't going to be around for a long time, they was only going to make so much money. So they was like, let's get it now. So they really like helped Loma in his career, but this is boxing. They can help you all they want in boxing. You got to win those fights. Case in point, Loma's second professional fight, they gave him a shot at a world title. He just didn't win the fight. And then in his fourth professional fight, they gave him another shot at a world title. And I criticized like the organizations for that. I was like, bro, you mean to tell me you gave this guy a title fight and his fourth professional fight, and you gave him a title fight in his second fight and he lost? How many men and women get one title fight, and if they lose that fight, they go back down to the bottom of the board? It takes them years to get another title fight. He loses his second fight, wins one, and the next fight he gets another title fight. Come on, man. You didn't have no help? Really? No one was helping you? But I see why now. I see that, all right, they knew they had a really skilled fighter. And if anybody they were going to pull the strings for, it was going to be for a guy like that. So technically, Loma wasn't like your traditional where you would say the corruption type shit. He was just a man that had a lot of skill that didn't have a lot of time. And if they were going to put all their eggs in one basket, it would be for a fighter like that. They were right. They were right. He did what he had to do. That fight against Teal, I don't know what happened in that fight. I wasn't in the ring. I'm not in Loma's corner. I'm not in his locker room. So, but I can honestly say he didn't fight for the first 6 rounds in that fight against Teal. You know, heading into this fight against George Kambosos, George looks like a real live dog. And I'm looking into his eyes at the press conferences and everything. I'm watching him shadow box. And, you can only take so much from that, but Their appearances are both seem like they're both locked in, laser focused. Like these are two men right here that realize that this is their moment. And there's no better time for matchmakers to put two guys that are in similar situations. It's basically sink or swim. So one man's career is basically going to be over in this night, and the other man is going to go in the other direction. That's what's going to happen on Sunday in this fight. George Kambosos is fighting for everything, and Lomachenko is also fighting for everything. And when you have a fight like that, typically those fights are not boring. You know, we're gonna have a definitive winner in this fight, I believe. It could be a close fight. I think for the most part, both men are like evenly in height, length, reach are matched. I would like to think that Loma is still Loma. We talked about it, but you know, I mean, if the Loma that just fought Devin Haney shows up, I think that might be enough. But George Camboza has shown time and time again the fights they thought he was gonna lose, he upset at the cart. George pulled off some pretty big victories that I remember. I didn't. It's not like um I followed George Kamboza's career extensively at the time. He fought Maxie Hughes, Devin Haney, then Devin Haney, then Teofimo Lopez. He fought Lee. He fought Mikey. He fought Richard. Look, he fought some guys. I know he wasn't supposed to win these fights, and he did. So when you got a live dog like that, he's the type of fighter that doesn't know he's supposed to lose this fight you know. And when you're at a rise like that going into the Devin Haney fight, he revered himself as like a conqueror or sorts. He put that title on himself. He thought he was a Spartan. That shit went to his head, and you could see in his physique when he came into the Devin Haney fight one that it really affected him. The going out and the lack of preparation that it's something else how a fighter in a loss humility sets in, and later it sets them free from that bondage to talk freely about their loss. Until they lose, according to them, they were never doing anything wrong. How can you find humbleness in an ass whooping? And that's the beauty of the sport of boxing. When lessons in the ring are being taught in and out of the ring, these men and women train vigorously, hard, day and night to put everything on the line. Can you imagine coming up, winning 2 gold medals, coming up in the pros, getting your opportunities, and failing in your first attempt? How heartbreaking that could be. For some men can go inward, for other ones it could push them onward to a level of star status in this sport where a loss is not forgiven, where the O is glamorized above it all, where Mayweather set this bar, where that just one loss can really set your career on a spiral, or in some cases, in a loss, you can go upwards. What a crazy sport we have, but an exciting sport. And it is a sport I truly love. This fight right here, although, you know, I think not the biggest fight, I would say, but one of the most interesting fights, I would have to admit. This George Kamboza Lomachenko fight, I don't think this fight is going to disappoint us. I encourage you to tune in into this fight, and it also is going to shed some light on the 135-pound weight division, and we'll have a definitive 135-pound IBF champion, and that belt will no longer be vacant, and the winner of that belt will also inherit the IBO, which if the champion chooses to accept that by putting the IBO around his waist and acknowledging that organization, it gives that organization the power it needs and the kind of champions that wear their belts to take their organization to the next level. You see, so that is very important. When Stephen Kubo Fulton stepped up and he fought Brandon Figueroa and he become a unified world champion, he chose to vacate the IBO. You know, he could have kept that belt and even showed a better version of a champion, because to the image to the public, they would have saw three belts. But in these cases, when you start to get high, these organizations ask you to vacate those belts because they don't deem it one of the major sanctioning bodies just yet. But it is the type of belt that you would want your champion to at least secure, and it'll let you know we got something right here. We got a real one right here, you know. So let me see what you guys are talking about here. Bam Bam Boogie. So happy you can show up to work. So happy. Let us not hold you back. You know what I mean? You know? Happy you can join. You know what I mean? What's up, guys? Where the hell is all right at? Where is my man at, man? Oh man. What's up, guys? I'm just scrolling up. What's good, baby? From UNC? What's up? Damn, I need some water. I almost choked there. Shit. Leave for rain. What's up? What's up, Michael? Armando, how you doing? Frontline. I'm just catching up to all you guys real quick. We should have him pull up to this, I guess. What you think? We'll talk about it. I like Loma. You like Loma in the fight? Yeah, I'm doing a live stream. Yo, Boogie. Hey, yo, lay off the blunts. Rob Donaire Jr. is about to fight now. What, on like a Friday night fight? Oh, bare knuckle? That's such a meat grinder of a sport. But hey, it's exciting though, huh? Loma by decision over Kambosos. Yo, listen. I'm officially on the clock. Who's that? Who that? Who that? That's Bam Bam. Late to work, as usual. Yo, listen. Um, look, I'm not sure if you're gonna make employee of the month. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna have to put your picture in a picture frame. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? We might give it to Armando again this month, Bam. If you know, anyway, back to boxing. Yo. Mm, yeah. Yo. Yeah, bare knuckle matches. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, how what's the life expectancy you think in a bare knuckle match as a champion? How much can your face and your bone and your flesh take? You know the damage those guys put on in just one fight? Jesus. That's but God bless them. If that's what you want to choose to do, I'm not gonna knock you for it. Some of them guys make some big money. Listen, the bare knuckle champion there that came from the UFC, what's his name there? Help me out here, somebody. I know you know his name. What's his name there? Uh, if you get it before I do, bonus points. Um, he wanted to fight Conor McGregor, whatever. What's his name? The bare knuckle champion there. He fought in the UFC for a little while, and he got smashed. He got his nails broken like 100 times. Ah, no, not Kimbo. Nah, the bare knuckle match champion right now. The dude he was yelling. Y'all probably don't watch it neither. But yeah, he makes a little bit of money. I can't believe I forgot the dude's name, bro. It'll come to me later, whatever. But anyway, listen, guys. Yeah, I'm gonna be tuning in to watch this Lomachenko fight. It's gonna really let me know where a lot of these guys stand because I think the next fight, if that happens, Shakur Stevenson and Lomachenko could fight, for unification as well. Whoever wins out of the Tank Davis fight, Tank Davis got that contract that he signed, the 6-fight deal with Prime, right? And I think we talked about this, right? Uh, the money he stands to make with Frank the Ghost Martin right now, if he okay, roughly, I'm not in the room, right? But roughly, he it's 6 fight for $250 million. So if you was to break down $250 million in 6 fights, he's gonna make about $39 million for that fight against Frank the Ghost Martin, plus pay-per-view buys. Yeah. So if he makes $39 million, that actually puts him over Canelo Alvarez. Yeah. Canelo Alvarez, I think, only made 33 million. Yeah, I think that fight against just Frank the Ghost Martin is gonna put Tank Davis in the top spot as the moneymaker now in boxing, I think. And then the Saudis are definitely changing the game. As soon as that card hits from Terrence Crawford, and it looks like that Prince guy, man, he's gonna really change the game, man. And that's amazing. That is so great for the sport of boxing, man. He's gonna put together some massive fights. Mark my words. He's gonna have that Japanese superstar. He's got him on his radar, and they're gonna set up a big fight. His fight might be on schedule with Sam, right? Um, the problem is, right, with Naoya Inoue's situation, right, is that he kind of jumped the line with the opponents. Although his opponents were all top number one opponents, right? He took Luis Nari on first, right? Okay. Meaning, well, no, actually, it didn't matter. It didn't actually, yeah, he probably saw that. Yeah, that just dawned on me. It really didn't matter which one he took first because I was going to say this. Luis Pantera Nari was the WBC number one rank, right? But Goodman is ranked in two weight titles. So he would have been of more importance depending what organization was in line for the crack at Naoya Inoue's belts, that would have been. So I would have fought Goodman first to get him out the way. That eliminates two belts, two mandatories. So you're free for a year to do whatever you want, right? And that won't tie you up. But the next person in line was the WBC. So Luis Nari would have been the next person in line regardless. Yeah, so he was gonna run into the same situation. He just did it backwards. So I think he's gonna have to fight Sam Goodman, or they'll strip him of the belts. I don't think they're gonna touch Naoya Inoue's belts, right? Right? I don't see that happening, but I've seen crazier shit happen in the sport of boxing, you know. Because Naoya Inoue now starts to put himself in a different conversation altogether. He decided to stay at 122 pounds. You guys do realize every time he defends those belts, he's making a record. Of how many men in boxing history has ever had 4 belts and fought the men in their division consistently, didn't fight in other divisions, didn't fight in lower divisions, didn't have guys dragged up, just guys by the rules, by the definition of the way boxing is laid out. He's doing it that way. It's basically the right way to do it, right? You're not dragging someone out, weight draining them, none of that shit. You're fighting the top guys. So he fought the number one guy for the WBC, and now he's going to go fight the next number one guy. So if he's successful, right? Wow, that starts to put him in a unique category. There were a couple men that were unified, undisputed world champion in a three belt era that were able to defend all three belts several times. So as he starts to write his history in the bantamweight division, it's gonna really, it really shows, um, you know, the kind of champion he is. He has a target on his back, the size of the it's way bigger than him, of the men that are coming after him now. You know why? One, they just saw him dropped. So Superman just went down. And in this sport, when all egos are clashing in the sport of boxing, all these men's are like, no, I'm the best. No, I'm the best. And everybody wants to like pick everything. And when you become the kind of fighter he is, where they started to recognize, shit, he's hardly losing any rounds in any of his fights. And up until that point, he's never been knocked down. He has this remarkable championship fighting record, and he's on pace of, and he unified in two separate weight division. That's basically talking shit about Michael Jordan. Like if another player was to come out while Michael Jordan was playing in his prime, like if he was like on his third three-peat in the middle of it, and a player was like, you're a bum. Bro, that was not going to fly. That's basically what they're doing to him. Right? So he, they're, look, man, they're not going to be able to deny him much longer. These records, sometimes I talk about them and they fuck with my mind because, I truly understand how hard this shit, what he's doing. And it's just not easy, right? So I don't see how much more they can deny him. I mean, there was an argument today that he was given the Ringside Magazine pound for pound best fighter in the world. And when we talk about that prestigious list, I want the world to understand that that list is, you know, it's a list made up of some of the top people in the sport of boxing that have the biggest influence in boxing and some that's been around for a long time, like people like ESPN and Top Rank. But although that list is just a list of like basically opinions, and the reason why that list fluctuates and change, because that's exactly what it is. Once upon a time, the list was revered to be quite prestigious in its time. Throughout the years of boxing, corruption and guys wanting to, if you get to say that your guy is number one, what would that do for your guy's career? It's going to market him well and generate a lot of money because your guy's being claimed as the best fighter in the world. So a lot of these guys always wanted their fighter on the list, and it became more like a popularity contest. There were qualifications for you to get on the list in the beginning for the first, in the first place. And at the top of the list was, everyone recognized that it had to be the skills that paid the bills, you know. And can we get these likes up? And you know, when 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 it was based in a time where it was skills, right? And they wanted to see you as a whole. How were you defensively sound? How was your footwork? How was your ring management? Where can you deal with a lefty? Can you switch it up? And that was all determined on skills, and then it started to be determined by accolades, like what did you accomplish, championships. And I think when they started to bring championships into the equation, it started to change the list, because they were men that, had belts, but they weren't the greatest fighters in the world. For instance, say when when Saul Canelo Alvarez gave that fight to Jamel Charlo and he moved up, what if Jamel Charlo would have hauled off and knocked out Saul Canelo Alvarez? You know what that would have meant, right? That simultaneously, for like 9 seconds, he would have held 8 belts simultaneously. There was no man in the history ever going to pull some shit like that again off. I can guarantee you that much. With that kind of achievement underneath your waist, he could go over to Muhammad Ali's table and flip it and say, I'm the best fighter in the world. Who could argue with him? But is he the best fighter in the world? So, because he has 8 belts simultaneously, you think that he wouldn't have made an argument for at that time being the best pound for pound fighter in the world? Who could argue with him? If he would have hauled off, you see how boxing plays fuck shit, right? Because they put him in a situation that kind of fighter never deserved to be there. You would have thought that if they would have gave a man that kind of opportunity, he would have been a Naoya Inoue, a Terrence Crawford. It was Jermell Charlo. And if by any miraculous reason in one settle exchange, he would have knocked out fucking Saul, bro, you would have made that man have 8 belts. Technically, by the law of the WBO, that's impossible because the minute if you have a WBO in its structure, if you move up in weight, you set a fight for a WBO, the second you win that belt, you lose this one automatically. You don't have to vacate it. In their rules, they take it from you within that second. So they allow you to keep it actually for like the night. And that's it. By the next morning at 9 o'clock, you no longer have one or the other belt. You see? So he would have only been in it for like in the middle of the ring, but he would have achieved it. And who the fuck would ever told him that he's not the greatest fighter in the world? Yo, I would have walked around with all 8 of those belts for weeks. I'd have been eating in a restaurant. Pass me the salt. All 8 of the belts. Huh? You said something to the 8-belt champion simultaneously? No? Then sit down. All right. Huh? What was that over there? Yeah, yeah. Yo, every day I'd have those belts. I lose my mind. I lose my mind. Bro, I'd be an asshole and just go to the Hall of Fame in New York, go in and buy tickets and walk around with all 8 belts. Just walking around. So, who are they saying is the best fighter in here? Yo, I would lose my mind. And this is the situation they gave a man like that, bro. Saul, he knew he wasn't going to win that fight, and he stopped him. But man, what an opportunity. And that's what I mean when the pound for pound list started introducing belts into the equation. And I didn't think that was cool because although belts are great and you should have belts, most likely if you're being talked about in the top 1, 2, or 3, you would think that guy has belts, right? So that was kind of like, you know what I mean? But they didn't keep it skill. And then they started bringing the guy that made the most money at the gate. They started bringing up pay-per-view sales. They started bringing up knockouts. They started bringing up, and the case, my argument is this, right? First of all, we have to go by the rules and the definition of boxing. What are they? To hit without being hit. That is the basic fundamental rule number 1 in boxing. This is a sport, and we are awarded by points of offense. Hit without being hit. Am I correct? Okay. And if we were looking at it by that, right? then we would have to start to break it down and say, all right, yeah, I just broke it down real quick inside of my head. And I was saying, just making sure if we're judging it by that, then we're judging it by every time you get inside of the ring. Then we would be judging it by your competition. And if we were looking at it like that, that would translate to an active fighter. Every time you get in the ring, you're taking up an opportunity of getting a loss. Am I right? So activity is the key. So if you're being talked about as the number one fighter in the world, if it's yours, both you're skilled, it's not being questioned, where would you have to go to? If Naoya Inoue is already fighting his fourth fight, going into his fourth fight, and to Terrence Crawford's one fight, I don't think that should be a question anymore. Every single time Naoya Inoue enters the ring, he takes a chance of losing. And I got to admit that although Terrence Crawford beat Errol Spence Jr., that's only one fighter. That's only one champion. Naoya Inoue, since that time, has fought 3 world champions within that stretch. 3 world champions, not 3 contenders or the number one guy. He got 3 world champions to your one. And if we were looking at it for the amount of belts, and you was to say Terrence Crawford beat him for 3, Errol Spence Jr. had 3 belts. Okay, then we're gonna count belts now. All right, let's count belts. Stephen Kubo Fulton had 2. Marlon Tapales had 2, and he just fought Luis Pantera Nares for 4. You guys want to count belts? You want to count belts? So we're back at where? He only fought 1 time. So if we're in 2024 and we were arguing back then, coming into the Errol Spence Jr. fight, right? They were saying Naoya Inoue and Terrence Crawford were right here, 1 and 2. Coming into the Errol Spence Jr. fight on the pound for pound list, right? Coming into that fight, Terrence Crawford was successful. He won the fight, catapulted him to number 1. The Japanese guy has already beaten 3 world champions, my man. And they're still talking about, Terrence Crawford's number 1. Now, I got to say that's being biased. I got to say, you guys are just looking over the Japanese dude's hard work. You guys are bypassing it and staying a prisoner in the moment. You know why you got to stay with the Errol Spence Jr. fight? Because your guy only gave you 1 fight. That's all you got to talk about. He didn't give you anything else, unfortunately. But the Japanese dude has given him something to talk about. He beat 3 world champions back to back. Oh, and by the way, he knocked all 3 of them out. Luis Nares was a world champion. Um, um, Marlon Tapales was a world champion, and Stephen Kubo Fulton was a world champion, and he knocked them all out. And if we're still talking about him not being the best, then how the fuck do you become the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world? That's why when they gave it to Terrence Crawford, that's basically a list that is devised by some people that, like the Ringside magazine, but I think the Ringside magazine gives out an award for it or something. I'm not sure, but that's really what it is. But Fighter of the Year, now I believe that's where the award is, and that's why I believe that they gave it to the right man. When it comes to that, he's just putting in that much work. He's already negotiating his next fight with Sam Goodman. And That's going to be another fight for another 4 belts. You're not listen. He's putting up too much work. Terrence Crawford going into his fourth weight division at 154, right? Which is great. He'll be fighting Israel, right? And which is awesome, but he'll only catch up to the Japanese superstar. He won't be passing him. As of right now, the Japanese superstar is winning in that too, as far as divisions. So the only thing they got, which they're clinching onto, is just one fight with Errol Spence Jr. And since then, that's all they needed to say that he solidifies the number one spot. And I think by now, nah, nah. I think by now, nah, like it's just too far. Bob Arum said he'll fight 2 more times this year, and I believe it. And I believe it. And now that they got that Arthur Benavidez and Demetrius Bibble fight postponed, because of the injury, it's not canceled, I'm hearing. They're going on another date. Remember when Naoya Inoue was coming into that fight with Stephen Kubo Fulton? Remember he suffered an injury? And like it was rumored that it was his hand. Some people said it was his knee. Some people said it was his shoulder, then back to his hand, because they know that he had problems with his hands, right? So I think we got to the bottom of it, but I forgot what the injury was. But anyway, that fight was postponed. And then people were coming on saying, "Oh, Naoya Inoue, right? He's ducking. He wants out of the fight." And Naoya's camp was like, "No, no, no, no. I don't want out of the fight. I just suffered something. Let's push it back a month, and I'll be ready." And then the fight kicked off, and we got the fight. So depending on how much time and if they can get another venue on where or when, some of these things got to be really looked into. Okay. You just can't be like, and pick out a place and go, I want to fight here. No, there are many shows that have been scheduled in that building. Some of these buildings are booked. Some of those hotels in Las Vegas are booked for the next 10 years. They have special slots for boxing events. That's why they hold them at night. You see? Because that's the only way you can slide in. Because if you was to, let's say, fucking, I don't know, Disney on Ice in Las Vegas came into town on May 11th, right? And then all of a sudden you say, I want to put up a boxing match at 8 o'clock. They say, we got Disney on Ice there. Take Disney on Ice the fuck out of here. It's the heavyweight championship of the world. You know how many tickets they sold for that Disney on Ice show? You know how many refunds or people would be upset? You know how many hotels people booked for their kids to see that? They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. So these fights are sometimes hard to book. As you can see, Gervonta Davis and Tank Davis are going to fight on June 15th. And first it was June 15th. Then they pulled out and said, nah, we don't want to fight on June 15th. We're going to try to get it for June 22nd. They even announced it for June 22nd. Now we're back to June 15th. Yeah. And some people are saying that this is a pissing contest, that the PBC is putting up their best guy and to ruin Ed Hearn's night with Subriel Matias. And Subriel Matias is basically an innocent bystander in this, because Subriel Matias, all he wants to do is fight. And these promoters are getting in a pissing contest. They're saying this. I'm not saying this to be true. I don't know what happened, right? But these are some reports that are being said that, I'm just reiterating back to you. And some people feel like this, right? And they're saying that, the PBC is saying that, they know that they have the next GOAT, as far as money and ticket sales with Gervonta Tank Davis. And I said, you could have still pulled that off on June 22nd by busting out receipts and not split the fans. There's going to be a lot of fans that are watching that Subriel Matias fight that would have been watching that Tank Davis fight, and vice versa. So you're going to cut your money in half because you guys want to get in a pissing contest? You could have still did that, right? Let all the fans go watch Subriel fight, come back on June 22nd and let them all go watch your fight and still make that kind of money, but double. Because now you got the full attention of the fans on the 22nd. You probably would have made double your money. But by competing with them, the fans have no choice but to split. So you're obviously going to make less. You might make the bigger numbers. You might beat Eddie Hearn out in Puerto Rico on the night for ticket sales, pay-per-view, all that shit. Because, yeah, your guy's fighting on pay-per-view. You know what I'm saying? So, okay. But if you ask me, they could have still did this and still gave us, the fight. But I don't give a fuck. I know where I'm gonna be. If I miss the Tank Davis fight, then I missed the Tank Davis fight. I would love to have seen that one, but I've already made my decision, and you guys know exactly where I'll be. I'll be in Puerto Rico, and watching the Subriel Matias fight. You know what I mean, live. So, you know, uh, oh yeah. 3 fight times a year. Look at Pitbull. He's already in the second fight. And it just goes to show you, for these type of men that are serious about putting themselves. Look at Pitbull Cruz knew exactly what he wanted to do in life. First, he wanted to provide for his family and take his kids out of the life that he was in. Once he did that, he wanted to set his eyes on becoming a world champion. And once he became a world champion, he knew that that's when it's time to go to work. You weren't going to put all this hard work in, right, to secure a belt and say, I want to go on vacation. He said, no, I'm going to capitalize on my height. I'm on fire right now. I'm just coming off one of my biggest wins, getting a belt in a division I really don't belong in. How much more can he hang on to that belt before he comes against that bigger skilled guy? See, right now they're taking another guy from the 135 and bringing him up, to at least make the fight worthy. A lot of people are saying that Jose doesn't deserve this fight, but I think that that's the right move for Isa Pitbull Cruz. Come on, guys. Do you really want him to get in there with Tio? He'll lose that belt. You want him to get in there with Matias? Brother, he's going to lose that belt. And I even think he might lose that belt against Devin Haney. Well, he might have that kind of pressure until Devin Haney knows how to deal with pressure and power. Everybody's going to look at him like that now. So he is skilled. Devin Haney's going to be fine. He's just going to be just fine. I'm telling you, you know. I think it was much more than just dealing with the power and the speed. I think it was humility. He was embarrassed a little. He never been in a situation like that. Not every man knows how to deal with everything falling apart. There came a time in that fight, Devin Haney didn't want to be in that fight anymore. You could see it in his eyes. It was a fucking nightmare. Everybody that was criticizing you and scrutiny coming off your last fight with Loma. People thought Loma won the fight. They were booing you in your hometown, in your home state, in Las Vegas. Now you take this fight elsewhere, trying to, get your career, get the fans back. You take this fight thinking, this guy's not on my level. This is the Ryan Garcia doesn't deserve this fight. And then he goes into the fight and that shit happens. And while he was in it, a lot of things must have been going, and he was fucking with him. And that speaks to a complete fighter. That is also a hole in your arsenal. And when we talk about a complete fighter and a pound for pound fighter, that's everything that comes into it. And the mental part is one of those things. Can you be mentally fucked with? Can they talk shit to you at a press conference and get in your head? You know how many times fighters like Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather got into fighters' heads? They were beat before they even walked into the ring. They were mentally beat. You have to have a superior mindset as well. And that's what we talk about, holes and flaws in fighters whole as a whole. You see? And fighting is much more than just going in there and throwing punches. It's truly an art. I remember fairly young when coming into boxing, I thought fighting was just the guy that got his shit off first. It's basically what I thought it was. I thought if I punch hard enough, the guy would eventually fold in front of me. Until I was taught the hard lessons in training that there are men that can take your punches, bigger men. And I was a kid, so there was bigger kids that could take my punches. And then, I was beaten inside the ring in practice over and over and over again. And but that's where I developed my skills until that one day that fighting changes for you. That all the training you do, everything your coach told you, everything you learned about fighting just comes together. And when it does, it's a real like crazy experience. It kind of seemed like I told my mom at the time. I was like, "Mom, it looks like he's going in slow motion." Like he was just, I could just see everything like playing out. He was just out. It just, and I could see the windows. They were much bigger, and everything was clear. And I saw fighting in a different way. It wasn't just throwing punches. It was actually setting them up. It became easier. I was doing things with less movement. I wasn't hopping around like this wildly energetic kid when I would get in the ring. I was all hocked up. I was like, let's go. And then, I couldn't stop bouncing around. And then you learn how to be calm. And you even learn how to be calm in the storm. And um you could you could just see it. You could just see it. It's hard to explain. And you start seeing fighting different. And that's when you start to realize, but it's crazy too at the same time. It's like it's like doing that crazy sport or like crazy adventure, and you going into it with a lot of confidence. Like there's a girl there that you want to impress, right? So they're like, yeah, 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 the guy that can go down on this skateboard down this ramp right here and just land on this pile of deflatable whatever, who can do it, right? But it's like 300 feet drop, right? And she's standing there, and you're like, I got this, right? That ain't shit. I got this. And you start going down, you're feeling great. And in the mid of it all, you realize what you're doing, right? And you're like, right? And you just, right? And, in that moment, do you keep it all together? Do you realize, yo, I was been doing it from up there. What fucked me up was I broke my concentration. I would have never fell if I would have just believed in myself. I got that far with, you know what I mean? But it's when you start to second guess yourself, and the mental part of it all is just really like it's a motherfucker, bro. Um, if you can convince yourself to push your body, Navy SEALs train in the Army all the time, and they're constantly pushing their bodies to limits that they never thought before. They thought they were going to quit. They thought they were going to talk in torturous situations, and they trained themselves to be like, no, your body can even go further than that. And when you drop on your face, just spit out the blood and then get up and go further. That's how they train. And that's the mental part of it all. So like boxing is much more than just throwing punches. And when the sweet science is performed at its highest level is when you really get to see like its beauty, you know. Terrence Crawford, man, you know, when I would watch him fight, I you know how you know he's so good, right? Right? You go back and you watch his fight and you see something else and you learn something else. And I go back and I watch his fights and I start to realize he had him set up from the beginning. He had him set up from the beginning. Yeah. And some of those punches, they were well orchestrated. Yeah, and some were spontaneous, yeah. He when he saw a window, he took it, but his ring IQ for where to be standing is real good. Like his distance to keep you at that angle where he can hit you, but you cannot hit him. He had that real understanding of not leaning in with his head. He was a perfect fighter's frame. If you ever want to study a fighter that doesn't get hit, that can fight, and you see, because some fighters would evade, but they'd already be leaning back. They'd start from here. That's like starting a race with 5 feet in front of the line. You know what I'm saying? But he wasn't doing that. Terrence Crawford, he was standing in the position, but it's the way he look at his positioning, and then he doesn't put all his weight on his front foot. He puts it on the back foot, right? And he's able to evade, but with one subtle step, if he wants, he'll step this way, switch lefty, like this on you. And that's really like unique. You can't make a lot of mistakes with a man that can do that to you. And then what he understand what your body's doing. See, there's only so many ways. You only have two hands, right? So if you lock down this hand, his punches can only come from this hand, right? Same vice versa. Understanding the human body, if you already threw this one and I hit you big, your reaction is not going to be to throw this hand. Understanding that about your opponent is crucial in a fight. Now you're starting to guess what you got him doing. You're bashing him, you're ducking under the punches, you're slipping him, you're hitting him, you're in your zone. And it makes it feel like truly the Matrix when you're in that zone. And that's what I'm talking about. When I was like, the guy looked slow. Like I could see everything he was doing at the time because I started to understand a different level of the game. Now, I've never finished my training. I was a young Jedi, right? But to the men and women that complete the task, that go on to become full fucking Jedis type shit, right? You know, and I watch them now and I understand more about it. And I understand what they're doing. And I'm left in awe sometimes. Still at this day, I still learn. I love studying boxing. And, you know, and it's there's nothing better than to watching the best do it. I used to hear the rumors like when I was like younger and shit in the gym, and we were like, "Yo, who you want to learn basketball from? The janitor or Michael Jordan?" And he's like, "Yo, I want to learn from Michael Jordan." All right then, right? Who you want to learn boxing from? The guy that's ranked number, you know what I'm saying, 1,400, yeah, right? Or you want to learn from the best? From the top guys, so I truly respect the men and women that lace it up and go there and give it their all. There's a lot to be said about the people that can do that. I would have gave anything just to have just one professional fight in there. I was never given an opportunity to have one, but that must be a really unique feeling. And then it's like anything in life, right? As for me anyway, even as an amateur, right? Once I won one time, I wanted to win again. Because there was nothing like coming home with that trophy that they give you, and your mom takes it and puts it on the wall with the rest of them. And I'm just compiling them up. I'm just like, yeah. And then I look over at my brother's trophies. He has a couple. But my sister has that one with WYMCA Girls Club, and that one miraculously beats mine and my brother's one. I don't know how that one trophy, you know, yeah, it was the best trophy in the house according to my mom. Man, no matter how many we brought in. So, but yeah, and boxing was a thing in my house, and you know and that's why now I cover it you know but what's going on, guys? Let's read some of these messages here. The Crawford with Israel at 154 pounds. That's gonna be a tough fight for Crawford, believe it or not, guys. What's up, Koki? That's gonna be a tough fight, man. You guys gotta remember that Terrence Crawford's gonna be moving up to 154 pounds. Just because we know who Terrence Crawford is doesn't mean or grant him that he's gonna win this fight against this guy. You got to remember, this guy's a natural 154 pounder, Israel, and he cracks hard. I'm not saying he's gonna become a superior fighter overnight, but what I am saying is Terrence Crawford is not gonna look like Terrence Crawford at 147. Now I'll keep this in mind for you. You know, this is just food for thought. Food for thought. Wilfredo Gomez, at 122 pounds, right? The super welterweight division, right? He was 32 fights, 32 knockouts with 100% knockout ratio. He moved up one weight class, right? And he was destroyed by Salvador. Listen, when I say destroyed, it wasn't like we would have all thought that his power would have translated over, right? And it would have been maybe a close fight if he would have been defeated. No, he really disfigured him, and he just moved up one weight division. He had 100% knockout ratio, just moving up one. So I don't see Terrence Crawford just coming in him and wiping him down, but if any man in the world can do it, it's Terrence Crawford. And if I had to bet, I and you're asking me, he's considered to be the best fighter in the world. Well, then, if he's the best fighter in the world, then he should be able to pull something like this off. When men like Floyd and Manny Pacquiao went up to those weight divisions, yeah, Manny Pacquiao wasn't the best 154 pounder, but that dude came from 108. You got to give him his freaking credit, right? First of all, right? So what he was doing was video game shit. Real Manny Pacquiao, that was real life video game shit there. I don't think there's gonna be another man that can do shit like that. Naoya Inoue, he got up here to the 122, and he might just be maxed out. He might just be maxed out. At a certain point for him, it's gonna be the much bigger guy beats him, because I don't see anybody beating him skill for skill and anywhere in those divisions. Even if he was to fight his countrymen, I think that the Japanese fighters, although they are good, I don't think that they'll beat Naoya Inoue. I still got my money on Naoya Inoue against any of them. And it's just, either he stays at 122 and he realizes, you know what, I'm not going to give these guys the pleasure of beating me. I'm not going to go up to 126, maxing myself out, and finally they can say this guy beat me, because he was just too big. I believe the best version of Naoya Inoue is at 118. At 118 is the best. I think, had it been politics aside and he was making that kind of money and he was comfortable and he wasn't forced to move up, he would still be fighting at 118 and he would be dominating everybody there. And if you just let him be himself, but like his promoters and everybody around him tell him, you need to move up in weight to make that kind of money. You're not going to make that kind of money fighting at 118. You got to get a little closer to some of the bigger names and the bigger guys. And what they mean by that is that where the Americans are mostly champions and really dominate is the glamour divisions. 130, 135, 140, 147, 154, shit like that, right? We haven't had a heavyweight champion since Deontay Wilder, um so that's where the most noise is met, and that's where we focus our guys on. And Americans, where there's not a lot of them that would really like. Well, I take that back. I don't want to offend anybody, but at 108, who is the best American champion at 108? Who is the best American champion at 115? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know Sweepy Pernell Whitaker was playing in some of them small weight divisions. Yeah, I do know that, right? But I don't think Sweepy Pernell Whitaker ever fought at 108. I'm not sure about that. I can look that up right now if you want, but I don't think so. So that's my point. That he had to fight in bigger weight divisions. Naoya Inoue versus fighting in the lower. He ain't gonna make that kind of money, man. So yeah. Let me answer some of y'all questions, man. Let's get this popping. God damn, y'all writing. Damn! Yo, what's up? What's going on, Bam Bam? You been policing this shit? You been up and down making sure everything is Kojo? You know what I mean? I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna read some shit, man. All right. Can Crawford carry up his power even though Crawford is not known to have one punch power? He's not known to have one punch power, but he's obviously has um good power. You can see it in Errol Spence Jr.'s face. He literally had bumps on top of bumps. Those punches hurt. You know, um, you know, it took him a while to get acclimated to 147 pounds, but due in part that he was just chasing Errol for so long. I think that I would like to believe that his power would carry over, but we have to remind ourselves that his power would be carrying over from 147 to 154. This other guy's power is carrying from 154 and up. You see? He's been fighting in that size and that weight with these guys that are much bigger. You understand? And my concern is, will Terrence Crawford have enough pop in his shot to back him up? Because if he doesn't have enough pop in his shot, that guy's going to take 2 or 3 punches to come through the front door and deliver his bombs on Terrence Crawford. And I'm trying to tell you right now, if you don't know a lot about Terrence Crawford's next opponent, I suggest you go see some of his highlights on YouTube. The guy can crack. The guy can crack. All right. I think he has like 10 fights, 9 knockouts. I think he didn't knock out just one guy. Right? So he's good enough to have secured the belt at 154. Due in part that we do know that, Jermell Charlo was stripped. He never lost the belts, but still, nevertheless, he got it. And I know none of the guys that he's ever fought has the skills of Terrence Crawford, right? But that's a 147 pounder, Terrence Crawford. What does Terrence Crawford look like at 154? So how is he working with it? Will this, as we can see, Naoya Inoue, it's probably arguably one of the most skilled fighters in the world. And we just saw him get cracked and dropped in a fight from a guy hardly no one gave any shot in the fight. Coming into the fight, no one gave Luis Pantera Nares a chance in that fight. No one. And he dropped them. So, as you can see, anything can happen. By me sitting here to try to convince you, no, don't worry about it. This is an easy fight. Terrence Crawford got this all day. He's going to wipe this guy down. Nah, I can't say that. I can't say that because I know what's at stake. And I know how hard that is just moving up one weight division and how much weight you're actually giving up. Because if we was to sit back and think about it, right? Terrence is gaining everything he needs to, and then he has to figure out how to trick his body to perform with a few extra pounds, right? So on fight night, this guy, Israel, he's gonna come in, he's gonna cut weight. That's what he's gonna do. He's gonna cut weight and he's gonna come and he's gonna make weight, right? Bam. The next night, Israel's gonna gain anywhere between 18, 20 pounds. The night of the fight. You see what I'm saying? Thank you for the donation, $20. Hold on. Nah, we gotta put that up. We got to show that, right? Bingo, bango. Mucho gracia. Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. So, see that knocked me off my train of thought right there. You be dropping that dub on your boy. You know what I mean? Hold on. I'm not sure if they'll work, but fuck it, we gotta try them, right? Did you guys hear that? Did you hear that? Huh? Thank you very much. All right. So, where the fuck was I? Shit, I really lost my train of thought right there. Yo, so let's answer some of these messages. I might figure out what I was saying. Help me out, people. Help me out. What do you think, Edwin? About what? What do I think? Nah. Well, we'll fight with 8 ounces, with 10 ounces. Nah, I'm not sure about anything like that. The restriction about the people don't make the weight and then reducing the ounces in the gloves. I don't think by doing that to penalize something, you're also jeopardizing someone's safety. Packing on the weight is another way to do that because now you're trying to, and that's what we were talking about. We were talking about the weight. I just caught it now, right? Great question. So you see, what happens is that argument has been going around in boxing for years, right? And some people feel that just because I can cut weight better than you, I shouldn't be penalized for it. Just because you can't cut the weight, I can. And then I can come in even heavier than you on fight night. And that's a skill, right? So if you can't make the weight, but you took the fight, right? And you come in heavier, they're already penalizing you, and the decision was made to take money away from your purse. You'll end up giving away like 20% of your purse to your opponent. It's a drastic amount. Floyd Mayweather came in and they for every pound he was over, they deducted him $150,000 per pound. And I know that was based on his purse that he made that night, and that's what it is. So they decided that the best way to hurt you was to take your money rather than to even put more physical attributes in the fight. Say you come in 3 pounds overweight and they give you 10-ounce gloves and they give me 8-ounce gloves and I kill you. What then? Leave the rules because the argument's going to be one of you were at a disadvantage, right? If you was to take the fight and you was to say that he was 3 pounds over, before the fight started, they gave you an option. Because of the fact he doesn't make the contract, you can walk away with your money. You might not give the people the fight, and the people might turn on you. And for most people and most fighters are like, we worked this entire training camp, you know, they're like, yo, let's go, right? Because technically the 3 pounds weren't going to be all that, right? It is and it isn't, right? Because I believe even if Ryan Garcia came in 3.5 pounds over Devin Haney, even if he would have made weight, do you really believe that he wasn't going to get that kind of ass whooping? Ryan Garcia could have depleted himself those 3 extra pounds, right? Okay, he could have depleted those 3 extra pounds. I still think he would have rejuvenated to the size he was on fight night. Or he probably would have been a pound and a half off, if that. That's it. I think the same shit would have played out. And the only thing here, Ryan would have been the WBC world champion of the world at 140 pounds had he made the weight. I don't think the fight would have changed. You see? You know, heavyweight champions prove it to us every time. When we see a heavyweight fight another guy 25 pounds over his weight on fight night, heavyweight champions don't cut weight. Who is that fought? He had almost 90 pounds on him. The other, what was it? Um, Jerome Big Baby Miller. He came in a staggering 300 and what? How much was it? Like three? Yo, it was ridiculous. He fought Dubois. He on fight night, I think he was like 96 pounds heavier. 96 pounds heavier than Dubois. I don't think those 3.5 pounds against Devin Haney are as big as a factor than what would have took place. I still think that Ryan Garcia would have whooped his ass had he pushed those 3.5 pounds out of him. Yeah, he would have probably been a little weaker. It might have played in Ryan Garcia's favor. He probably would have been a little bit faster. He probably would have knocked him out. Those 3.5 pounds probably made him slow enough, sluggish enough that he didn't knock him out. So I don't know, but it could play either way. It just depends what kind of fighter you are. The pounds could either hurt you or help you. You know, we never know which one. And in this case, it seemed like it helped Ryan, because he won. So they're gonna lean more towards that way. So yeah. He's just a natural 155 4 pounders, guys. I'm a little nervous for Terrence Crawford. I've always been nervous going into fights anyway, right? And you say that, you're like, man, Terrence Crawford's he has a good one on this one. I thought Sean Porter was gonna put a better fight, but it was right. My brother did, we were talking about it and shit. And I had told him I think that Sean Porter had already checked out in that fight. Leading into I remember in the press conferences leading into that fight, that was Sean Porter's last fight. He didn't even want to take that fight. He was already retired in his head, so, I thought about that in the fight and stuff, but every time, like with Terrence Crawford or your favorite fighter, you're going in there and you're a bit nervous for them. But when it comes to jumping up in weight, I'm even that much more wary about the fight itself. Yeah, it's dangerous. It's dangerous because I know it. I know it. Terrence Crawford is going to try to acclimate himself to 154, which means he's going to be training slightly above it. By training slightly above it, he's going to try to adjust to a slightly heavier weight. On fight night, he's going to cut that weight. On dehydration, he's not going to gain that much weight. The weight he's going to stand to make is going to be between he's going to, if he wants to take a gamble, He'll go for more weight. He'll try to pack on. I guess that's between him and his coach, actually, right? At what weight do they want to start cutting weight? And how good is his old body to the sport? One day you're a spring chicken and you're cutting weight like this throughout your career. And then one that day comes when they're like, all right, take the fight again. And you're like, yeah, I can make the weight. And your body's not responding, and you're not cutting the weight out of your body like you once used to. So where is Terrence Crawford's ceiling? I don't know that. Had I know more information or more about how his weight has been cutting, I could tell you that, right? But right here, I'd just be merely speculating. Um, so his weight, well, I would think, if I had to guess, he would be cutting weight right around 160. Right, 160, maybe a couple pounds. If Terrence Crawford can cut like 7-8 pounds, and that won't hurt him, he can make the 154, gain those 6-8 pounds back, right? Where that Israel is going to be cutting his weight. He'll make the 154, and he's going to gain like 18 pounds, bro. And he's going to have on fight night, he should have on Terrence Crawford anywhere between 8 and 12 pounds or better on Terrence Crawford when they entered the ring. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. You understand? So he's going to be even that much bigger than him. And that's why I'm concerned. You see, he's not fight. You know what I mean? And when you're moving up to this weight, that's where they say acclimate to the division, which that means that you've kept training and fighting guys that size in that division. You're more familiar with their speed, their power, and you're adjusting your body to fight at the new weight, meaning now you're getting strong and everything is firing and on all cylinders while you're training. This way, coming into the fight, you're pushing yourself to make the fight. You're not a natural 154 pounder. And when you fight big punchers like this, it can always be concerning. But at the end of the day, Terrence Crawford, Bam Bam Boogie said it beat ring IQ. He it's Terrence Crawford's ring IQ can get him out of a lot of tricky situations. And when you have a ring IQ like that so high, um, uh, you know, what are you talking about, Bam Bam? The dude that dragged the girl in the BK got me. Anyway, I'll figure out that in a second. But when your IQ is that high, it can get you out of a lot of tight situations. It really can. I'm just like I said in the beginning of all this. Does Terrence Crawford got enough pop in his punch to keep him at bay? That's the one thing in the fight against the Japanese superstar Naoya Inoue did against Luis Pantera Nari. You see, when Nari dropped him, he wanted to come on the attack. When I went back and I watched it again, the reason why Nari had him take those little breaks in between, because he had to get the buzzing to stop buzzing in his head. Naoya Inoue caught him with some clean shots, him trying to come in. And he realized, wait a minute, he might still be on his feet. Remember in the first round, the Japanese dude was still laughing at him, yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, but he was working him. So he had enough in his punch to back him up. And that's what I mean about Terrence Crawford. Will he have enough in his punch and his pop to really break this guy down and, even in fact secure a knockout? Because let me tell you something. Um, when you got the argument about the best fighter in the world, Naoya Inoue has already set the bar on Terrence Crawford. I believe he needs nothing less but a knockout, if you ask me. If Terrence Crawford walks out of this fight with a decision, does he secure the number one spot with the kind of performances the Japanese dude has been having? Do you really think that Terrence Crawford holds on to that number one spot with a decision? Not with the shit this dude's been doing. Not with that. You guys remember that the ending of the Luis Pantera Nares fight, right? You saw him go right. Y'all saw that. They're gonna play that. They're gonna play the Tapales knockout, and they're gonna play that brutal ass Stephen Kubo Fulton knockout. Had it not been for those two extra bottom rope, he flies out of that ring. All right. So yeah, if you ask me, the bar is set. Naoya Inoue set it up here. I believe Terrence Crawford, in order to solidify his number one status, he has to secure a knockout. My opinion. What do you guys think? Look, what else could he? He's got to get a knockout or a TKO. Yeah, TKO is just as good as a knockout, right? That's a stoppage, bro. You know, the referee had to save your ass. That might be worse, in some people's eyes. Okay. But I think that he needs that kind of performance now. The other guy can't be putting up those kind of performances and you're still making excuses of why you're the best. The other guy can't be fighting three other world champions, knocking all three of them out when you only fought one guy and you're still want to be called the best. I believe it's his turn to bat. When Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa were going on that home run derby, whoever passed whoever in that, it was the next man up, right? He's got to hit it out the park. I don't think Terrence Crawford solidifies the number one spot anymore, anything less than a TKO or a knockout. I'm just keeping it real, you know? Yeah. He only fights once a year. So yes. Yeah. Man, look, in this day and age, man, when there are a lot of storylines and a lot of fighters, they try to boost up. And what we actually know and can see with our own two eyes, that these are the two men that are worthy. And there are other men that are coming up in the conversations. And soon there'll be a day where these two men exit out of boxing and a new set of men come in, and it all starts up again. Who's the best? Who's the best? Or sometimes the champion is dethroned, or sometime they walk away from the sport undefeated. And I think that Mayweather really did something to the sport with that stupid O rule. I believe in some things it inspires you, I guess, to be great, but in others it stops fighters from daring to be great. I believe, like, in such situations like Shakur Stevenson, the the fear of losing it all on one night, they don't want to gamble. They don't want to take a risk, and I believe that Shakur Stevenson's moment, one of his moments, passed him right by when he was given the opportunity to fight Devin Haney and he didn't. So, those are moments and doors that you have to walk through when those opportunity comes. Now that Devin Haney himself has been somewhat dethroned, which I believe, a loss is a loss. Get up, dust yourself off. So what? You lost. Okay, face it. Let's see how you face adversity, how you come back from this, how you respond. Devin Haney can go on a historical run. It's up to him. Whatever you put in the gym, it's going to show on fight night. I guarantee it. I guarantee whatever you put in the gym is going to show on fight night. So yeah. A splash, brother. He has to make a splash. Listen, I got Crawford in the fight too. You know, until I see otherwise, I'll never go against Crawford in the fight. You know, he's not to the point where I'm like, man, he's looking really old. No, he's not looking really old. I'm not doubting anything of Crawford's skills. I don't doubt Crawford's skills. I think Crawford will be Crawford, but will Crawford's punches affect this much bigger guy? That's my question. Will it be one of those nights where size really is a factor? That's my question. That's my only concern in the fight. As far as Terrence Crawford goes, his skill, his side of the street, no, I'm comfortable with Terrence Crawford as a fighter. Oh, I'm very comfortable with him as a fighter. Okay. I don't question that. But it just, some of these men lured some of these great fighters into divisions they didn't belong in order to beat them. And some of these guys fall for those traps and they can't say no to the money, or they're like, yeah, 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 yeah. No, they actually believe in their head, like, no, I can pull this off. And they all end up going into that fight, midpoint in that fight, they start to realize they made a horrible mistake. A horrible mistake. And they are getting beat down, bro. And it's too late now. You here. And everything you worked hard for is being taken away from you, punch by punch. Your wife's sitting there, you're looking at her crying, your mother's covering up her face, she's grabbing the kids, you don't even want to, your ship is sinking right there. Man, listen, nah, I don't know. I just, that's my only concern is that, is Terrence Crawford moving into a situation where that, you know, but as you can see, just because he cannot no longer make the 147-pound doesn't automatically make him a 154-pounder, a real natural one. That's why they have divisions for a reason, and they have weight divisions for a reason. And in just a few pounds enters a new weight division because that's how serious it is, you know. So Terrence Crawford moving up here, he's not fighting a number 15 rank opponent. He's not fighting a guy that's ranked number 25. He's fighting the fucking world champion off the rip. No tune-up fight, no nothing. When that's been kind of like the style now set by like fighters like this, where that a lot of guys were getting criticism. Yo, why you guys got to take tune-up fights when this Superman dude is just doing it? So now guys are like trying to do exactly that, and some are falling short, and some are realizing how difficult that is to do, and some probably was on in the midpoint of the ride and realized, this ride is crazy. Yo, I'm staying right here. Like, you know what I mean? I just realized how far up I'm up. You know what I mean? How high I'm up. He looked down. He was going so fast up that, you know what I mean? I think he realized, like, wait a minute, I might want to hang around 122 for a while. So yeah, at some point, size, and that's my only concern. Like I say, look, no, as Terrence Crawford as a fighter, as his skills, he should be able to beat this guy hands down. If this guy was in going down to Terrence's weight division, there wouldn't even be a concern. I wouldn't even I don't want to be arrogant, but I would actually have it 60-40, the fight, or maybe even 70-30 at some point if he was going down to fight Terrence Crawford. But the fact that Terrence is going up, it brings a little concern. And since I never seen a Terrence Crawford at 154, I have nothing to go on. I've never seen him at 154. I don't know what he looks like. I'm not going to guess for him. So that's why. He said, trust me, I got Terrence Crawford. I mean, this fight. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. I read that one. Anything can happen in boxing, brother. Anything can happen. I think that his superior skill, his ring IQ, and his footwork should be able to evade him. But in recent years, as quiet as kept, to be honest, Terrence Crawford's been easier to touch. I didn't, really want to bring that up into the equation. But if you know me, if I'm gonna be honest, I'm just gonna be honest. And the truth is, alarmingly enough, heading into the Aerospins Junior, he started to get touched up more in fights than usual. And then that's when everybody started to question Terrence Crawford's age. It seems like off of that ass whooping he gave Aerospins Jr., people like have a tendency of forgetting that. I don't think Errol Spence Jr. was nowhere near in boxing form or shape or living a boxer's lifestyle to be in the ring with the most superior fighter in the world. And I think he paid highly for that on that night. But just because you had one guy firing on all cylinders and the other guy basically didn't even show up to the fight doesn't take away what was starting to happen in Terrence Crawford's career. You're going to get a guy now that actually is going to give you a much better fight, a much stronger fight. And when I was watching Terrence Crawford in his recent fights going into the Aerospin Jr., I noticed that his volume of punches have gone down and he was more susceptible of being hit. And I remember that. So now this guy's going to be a better opponent. Listen, guys, remember that you heard all this here first at Round One Sports Talk. Listen, I am your host, Edwin. It's been an amazing show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. Oh, guys, we hit 2,000 subscribers today. Yeah. That's right. I hit 2,000 subscribers. So I'm happy. That's a little monumental moment here at Round One Sports Talk, and I owe it all to you guys. I just want to thank each and every one of you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for helping me build this channel. Thank you for believing in me. Even like when I'm tired and I don't want to go on, I still come on and I give us a show, something to do, something to talk about too. And I'm glad that you guys are sharing my passion and you're allowing me to get a voice. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, from me to Round One Sports Talk, to all of you. I'm on to the next one after this one here at Round One Sports Talk. Peace. I love you guys. Thank you. Bam Bam, all you guys, everyone. You guys have been amazing. Thank you. I'll see you guys on why don't we tune in on Sunday night for the Loma fight, because it's not gonna be on Saturday. Or we'll see what we look like on Saturday. Probably I'll put out a short film or something. All right.